Okay, so good evening, everyone, and once again, welcome to another episode of Victorious Believers. Right, and as you know, and Victorious Believers, we have been trying to spread hope in whatever way we can in this time of despair, in this time of crisis, in this time of hopelessness. Whatever hope we could spread, we are trying our bit. And in that series, our we have a very okay. So good evening, everyone, and renowned author with us to another episode of Victorious Believers. Right, and as you know, and so, Victorious Believers. Sorry for that glitch, but okay. So as I was saying, so we have today a very renowned author, speaker, and speaker's mentor. He's a CEO, executive coach, and it's an honor and privilege to have with us, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Salem joining us.
Vivek, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on Victorious Believers. And it's just such a great time to really start believing during this time. Even though it's some difficult times, this is the time to truly start believing. So here to definitely serve today in any way that serves your audience.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you once again for accepting our request to be on this show and taking out time from your busy schedule. And Chris has only 30 minutes of time that we are able to take from Chris today. Right. So I'll not waste much of the time. The Chris, the whole introduction would be in the description. So you go ahead and read it. I will not waste because we want to hear it from Chris more and more possible. So Chris, how do you like this? In such period of despair, where everywhere there is negativity, people are losing everything, people are losing jobs, losing relationships, losing lives, right? What does victory mean in this time?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is yeah, there is a lot of negativity and a lot of things that are happening during this time beyond our control, Vivek. And these are things that are inevitable, right? These things have gone on from generation to generation. This isn't the first, plague, so to speak, that we've had. This happened, the Spanish flu back in the early 1900s here in the US. You had all these different plagues that have been over different generations. But nonetheless, despite a lot of people going through some really difficult times, losing jobs, losing relationships, maybe lost a loved one to COVID. Nonetheless, even though these are negative things, there's always positive in every challenge or negative situation. So what I'm going to say to the people that are victorious believers that come and listen to your podcast or your show every week is that to kind of look at this as a time to really reflect who you really are and what can you learn to build a foundation that will allow you, when things start to get better, that you will be ahead of the curve instead of behind the curve. So what I like to propose to people that are listening is that we cannot control what we can't control. We can't control this situation with COVID. We can't control that if an employer let us go. We can't control if another person, for some reason, doesn't see eye to eye with us and they want to leave us. What happens is when we try to control what we can't control, that leads to worry, that raises a level of anxiety, that leads to frustration, that leads to feeling overwhelmed. The key right now in this time is to kind of reflect of what you can control, which is your attitude, an attitude of gratitude in this way. You can control your strengths and the things that you do best. And you can control what you say and how you engage other people to the best of your ability. and you can control any intelligence that you have that will serve you moving forward to where you want to go. If we can concentrate on controlling what we can and letting go of what we can't control and trusting the process. Now, the process, you could call that whatever you like. You could call that your religion. You could call that the universe. You could call that spirituality. You could call that just life in general, that it's a process. You show up in the moment to control what you can, what we talked about, let go of the rest and let the process do its part hand in hand with you. And you will discover that your level of frustration, worry, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed will be dramatically reduced, because everything that drives that is fear, and fear resides in the past and the future. But if you can learn to really trust the process, control what you can in the present moment, fear is reduced. And the byproduct, you won't worry as much. You won't be frustrated. Yes, the situation's still the same, but you're not reacting to it. You're looking for the opportunities and the blessings disguised in it, and what you can do in that moment to plant a seed to grow. What people don't realize, that many of our great companies in our society were born during turbulent times. Microsoft, when it became a company, they formed in 1987. 1987, when we were going through a downturn in our economy. The stock market was coming down. And as a result of that, they still was business as usual. They were a startup company at that point. So what it's saying is that as a person, you can start to build your foundation, looking at your attitude, looking at your strengths. Maybe perhaps losing your job was a blessing during this time, because now it's going to allow you to now put yourself on a limb to start that business that you thought about starting, but you were afraid to do. But now COVID has said, here you go, because you lost your job. You don't have a choice at this point. So instead of getting caught up in the problem and I lost my job, I lost my relationship, I lost this. I'm not saying that it's easy just to let it go, but to look at look at the positive. How can I solve the problem to create the solution? We have to be part of the process to create the solution. Mm-hmm. No religion, no person, nothing is going to do that for you in itself. You have to do your part. So the key is to take responsibility and accountability for where we are right here and now, and go out and become part of that process, doing your part, controlling what you can, letting go of what you can't. So you might ask yourself, well, Chris, how do I get present? Well, getting present is a part of the process. It's a daily thing. It's like if you get good at anything, you have to practice doing it on a consistent basis over a period of time. Meditation and journaling is something that if people, I know it's worked for me for 21 years. If you do that every day and get into a rhythm to learn how to be present, you have the ability to tap into your subconscious mindset to really begin to see what you're really made of. What is your purpose? What are those limited beliefs that have been holding you back? And where are they tied to back in your childhood so you can resolve them? Journaling allows you to write that down without overanalyzing or overthinking, to determine what's stopping you, what's causing this fear, what's affecting your level of self-esteem and confidence. And you'll be surprised that when you're able to trust this process, even though you may not truly believe in yourself full-heartedly at that point, the process will not let you down long-term when you show up to do your part. This is how we come out ahead victoriously as a believer in ourselves and in our process. And that good times will be in the future, a better job, a better business, a better relationship. Yes, we may have lost someone to COVID, and it's unfortunate. I've been there. I lost a loved one, not to COVID, but I've lost loved ones. I lost my father to cancer. This is part of life. and there's nothing we can do to control it. We have to just look at the good in every possible situation, doing our part. But if you can commit yourself to a process and let the results be a byproduct of the process versus being tied to the outcome, which is then aligned with expectations, you're going to position yourself to be more in the present moment with the process versus in the past and the future with the outcome and the expectation. So it's shifting your thinking. So this is a great time to reflect and start to build your foundation to become a victorious believer. Vivek, if you want to interject with anything or ask another question, I'd be happy to elaborate on that.
Yeah, that was great, Chris. So great things that you have said. I only wanted to, because people watching, listening to it, it all feels so good listening to all this. But it is so easy. Is it easy?
It's not easy. So that's the thing. It's like with anything. So what I'm saying doesn't mean that it's easy, but here's what's going to be your best friend in the long run. It's going to be actually not your best friend in the beginning. Matter of fact, it'll probably be, you'll think of it as your enemy, but trust the process. It's called discipline and consistency. So you have one hand here. This is discipline. This is consistency. They're married together. Why does discipline and consistency work together? Because discipline means that you're going to do something that you normally don't do or don't probably want to do, but you have to do it because it's going to be good for you in terms of growth, getting you out of your comfort zone. Meditation and journaling are a discipline that will lead to a new way of doing things, a new autopilot. So again, you got to ask yourself, if your well-being is not where you want it to be, your relationships are not where you want it to be, your career, your business, we need to establish certain disciplines to build that success foundation that will allow us to get out of the problem and into the solution. That's where consistency now comes in, because if we're doing it once or twice a week or once every couple of weeks, that's not going to do it. The consistency means every day, getting into routine. A pattern does not become part of your subconscious mindset unless you're doing something over maybe minimum a 6-month period. So everything I'm talking about takes time, and you got to be patient. Now, it's easy to say that, and then one way to actually do it, but the struggle that you're dealing with right now is temporary. You can choose to continue to struggle if you don't change. Everything changes regardless if you change with it or not. So the key is to change and adapt to the change and go with the flow, but yet take what you can control and steer that towards the life you want to create, the business career you want to create, the people that you want to align with, some of the great things that you want to do in this world. Like with anything, what you believe in and commit to on a daily basis will end up coming to fruition as long as it's realistic when you trust that process going forward. It may not always turn out exactly 100% that how you planned, but it will always come to fruition in some way based upon your commitment and your discipline towards those results. So the key here is just that you want to be patient and just do your part, let go of the rest. That's the hardest part, Vivek, that people have, is they get caught up in the things they can't control. This is why they worry, they stress, they have anxiety, and why they procrastinate and so on.
So as you rightly said, Chris, one has to be patient, and the process takes time. But right now, people are telling us, or people here also are feeling that we don't have time. Right? It's a matter of.
Yeah, we don't have time. You're right. You could be out of money. You could be out of food, right? So these are all realistic things. But think about it. You perhaps right now in this moment, you have food. You were probably telling yourself this 3 months ago that I'm not going to have food. I'm not going to have a roof over my head. But here you are 3 months later, you still have a roof over your head. Now, I'm not saying that you may be homeless, that you may be out in the street. Things happen. But again, it comes down to belief, that you have to believe in yourself to the best of your ability and keep trusting the process and believing in that process and doing what you can. So even if that does happen, doesn't mean it's going to be a permanent situation. It might be the greatest blessing that ever happened because you had to come apart in order to come together in the best way possible. So sometimes we got to crumble to reassemble in even a better way. So nonetheless, don't get caught up in that I'm going to be homeless, I'm going to be out of food. It's doing what you can in the moment. You'll be surprised that you get a lifeline almost all the, every other day or every week. Something will come to just get you by another day. Keep doing what you're doing. And then as it gets better and better and the economy starts to get better, things will improve. But if we get caught up in gripping onto something that hasn't happened yet, like I'm going to be out in the street next month, I'm going to have no food next month, no one's hiring me, and you just get locked into that way of thinking, it's just going to magnify the feeling even more. Because now we're putting more energy into the problem rather than solving it and creating a solution. What can we do right now temporarily that will improve you from a personal development standpoint, that can maybe position you to maybe do something that earns some revenue, even if it's a project, you just get involved in to make a few extra dollars while you're still looking for a job, while you're looking to start a business. It's your gut, your intuition will never let you down unless you choose to. So sometimes when people were working for someone and yet they were always knew that they could start a business, that's what their gut told them, but their head said, you're not capable. Play it safe, keep the job, get the benefits, be like the rest of us. It's trusting your gut, and it's not an easy thing to do. You might go through a few months, you might go through 6 months of the most greatest uncertainty that you've ever experienced in your life. But yet what you will become as part of the process is even more. You will become even of a more victorious believer when you've learned to go through that process, knowing that if you ever had to go through something similar again, you would have more strength and confidence and perseverance to go through it because you've already been through it before. You're stronger than you think you are. You are better than you think you are. You have to allow yourself to be that person, to give yourself permission. This is a perfect time to reflect, to get really in tune with your true values, who you are, why you do what you do versus what you do, and not getting caught up in another identity because you've been led to believe this is what you do or what was defined about you in your last job role. Every person has something unique and compelling to offer in this world. The only one that's stopping you is you. So again, these times that we're going through might be viewed as really difficult times of crisis, absolutely. But there's always blessings and opportunities disguised. There are going to be people that are going to choose to look at the positive and be present to trust the process to move forward. And then there are going to be people that are going to just continue to wallow in the problem and white knuckling and gripping onto the things they can't control. It's choice. Everything in the world is a choice. So this is where I wanted to at least plant that seed for everyone, Vivek, that you have the power within to make that choice and trust that process.
I always believe, and I always say in my talks that yes, so everything that happens in our lives is by volition, right? So it's a choice that you make, right? And all those listening to this, if you are feeling down, if this pandemic is, this crisis is taking over you, remember what Chris said, that you are stronger than you think you are, and you are better than you think you are, right? So most of the time, Chris, what I think is because people focus most of the times in their outer world, They look at the outer things that are not in their control. So they also listen to other people more. So what other people are saying about them. So I like it when you say, you know, it is important to have that self-reflection.
Yes. Give yourself permission to listen to your inner champion, not your inner critic. There's going to be both. You're going to have an inner critic, you're going to have an inner champion. The inner critic tells you that, you're going to be out in the street, you're not going to find a job, you're going to suffer, you're going to worry. And your champion is saying, hey, this is a tough time, but yet I see opportunities to grow. I see opportunities that while I'm going through a very difficult time, it's only going to be temporary until once I do these things to lead to this. I'm not focused on the outcome in the future. I'm focused on what I have to do in the moment that leads each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each year to the results I seek. I change the way I think in terms of how to manifest that to be. So that's what's really so important here, is that, the answers are within you. They're not outside of you. There are great people, you're listening to this podcast or this show, and you could get some great wisdom that we're sharing here today. But that you got to take that and draw your own conclusion and go within what that means to you. It's not because, hey, Chris said this and that's what I'm going to do. It's taking that information and processing it from within. And what is that inner being that telling you as a result of that? That's where you want to listen to and trust that source. That's where the process resides as well. It communicates with you from within, not out there. It's here.
Okay, so but it's difficult. Most of the time, people find it difficult to listen to the inner voice because it's confusing. They don't understand whether
Yes.
it's their own voice or not. Anything you
Yeah,
could.
meditation and the journaling is something that when you do it every day and you get into a rhythm over time is when you start to really get aligned with that inner being. It's easy for me to say that, and then somebody's going to go, well, I'm going to try that right now, but I'm not seeing anything or hearing anything. You got to get into a rhythm. So this is where the discipline comes in. You just got to do it. It comes down to, if you really want to change your life, you're going to do what you got to do to make it happen. So you got to kind of look at it that way. That's what discipline is all about. It's that you're doing what is necessary to improve the quality of your life, the quality of your relationships, your career, your business, and so on.
Okay. So, Chris, we have 7 minutes exactly left.
Yeah.
So I would like you to have some tips and advice for all the people watching.
Sure.
Well,
what I would recommend, Vivek, is that, is everything that we talked about, the first step is to really be aware of, if you're not where you want to be, is to be aware that it's okay. Give yourself permission that, hey, I'm going through a difficult time. Next, it's time to accept where you are temporarily. Doesn't mean that's what it's going to be forever, but you're accepting where you are, knowing that I'm going to move forward into the solution rather than the problem. And number three, you got to come up with your process. Meditation, journaling. You can add other things that will help you to get into a routine. I'll give you an example of my routine. It doesn't mean you have to do this verbatim, but you can find your own routine. So I wake up every morning at 4:15 in the morning. I make my bed. Why do I make my bed? Well, I make my bed because it allows my mind to get focused on accomplishing something so that I could do the same throughout the day for my customers and what I'm creating in my business and my personal life. I meditate for 20 minutes. I journal soon after. I then, after that, will go and do a resistance training workout at the gym or at my home. I'll come back, I'll eat breakfast, I will shower, then I will read a chapter or two out of a book that is relevant to whatever I'm doing at this time. Then I'll look over my goals and objectives for the day that I had outlined the day before. And then I start my day focused on the priorities that matter. So I work in pockets of time on one thing, not multitasking, to accomplish the goals that I have for my personal life, my well-being, my relationships, my business, and so on. So these are the things that require structure and have a plan, but you got to do it in the solution rather than the problem. So here's another thing I would recommend that might help people, also with what we talked about earlier, when you're controlling what you can, letting go of what you can. Here's another statement that's quite powerful if you can really understand what it is and really start to live by it. Give without expectation. So what does that mean? Give without expectation means that when you give, either you give your time, you give money, you give a compliment, praise, recognition, you're not expecting something back from that person. You do it from empathy and kindness, not pleasing and enabling. Empathy means that you're empowering people for what you give to do for themselves. Pleasing people means that you're doing it for them. That's disempowering. One is an interdependent behavior. One is a codependent behavior. We want to be interdependent from empathy and kindness. Empower people through your example of giving to do for themselves and to continue the process with others, knowing that it will come back to you. So it's give without expectation, receive without resistance, meaning that when it comes back to you, like a boomerang from somewhere else, you're not going to resist it and go, well, I didn't do anything. I don't deserve that. You receive with gratitude, no matter what it is. You don't question it. You don't refute it. You accept because that's the way the process works. And you're doing yourself a favor by accepting. You're doing the person who gave to you a favor. And anybody that's around you energetically, you're also spreading that prosperity to them, to open up that flow of prosperity. But if we get caught up in the problem and constantly be, trying to control what we can't, we're blocking that flow. We're blocking the capability of giving without expectation. We're not allowing ourselves to receive without resistance when we get caught up in the problem. So give without expectation, receive without resistance, making sure that you're not giving to please and have someone take advantage of you. That's a different story. That's where we have a boundary. But doing it in a way that empowers people to take that and do for themselves.
Right.
So hopefully that helps.
That helps. I am sure that will help a lot of people. And thank you so much, Chris. We ran out of time because we have squeezed half an hour from you and you have to go for a call. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Becky, for having me on your show.
We'll have someday we'll have an hour from you, and then our people can have their questions.
Absolutely, I'll be definitely happy to spend an hour with you guys and hear your victorious accomplishments, from this pandemic.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for your time, and see you soon.
See you soon. I'll be happy to be on another episode at your convenience.
Yeah. So thank you everyone who has watched. This was a quick fire show with Chris Salem. I'll put the links to Chris. I'll have introduction in the description and I'll put the links to Chris. Do follow it. Chris is an amazing author and he's an amazing speaker. And we'll have him once again, as Chris has promised. So thank you so much, Chris. And this time it's bye-bye from our side. Take care.
Sounds good. Enjoy your evening. Bye.
Bye, Chris. You enjoy your day.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah. Okay, everyone. So thank you for joining us. And this was slightly quick fire show today because Chris had only half an hour and he had to run for a call. But we'll be back. We'll be back with another episode of Victorious Believers, or we have had other series as well. So on Tuesday, as you saw, We have started a new series in Hindi called Bas Yun Hi. So we'll have another episode of that. So we'll keep creating content for you. We'll keep bringing good content to you, good people to you, and we'll be bringing some videos as well to you. So take care, stay healthy, right? Keep believing in yourself, keep believing in God, and we'll come out victorious from this situation, right? Take care. Bye bye. See you all.